Hello, welcome back. I hope you're very well. Today's video is going to be about sewing the Nola dress from the Viki Sews pattern collection. They are a Russian-based sewing company, mostly in Russian, but they have converted some to English, and this is one of them. I have made one of their Russian patterns before and just used Google Translate, but this time it's actually quite easy to follow the instructions because they're all translated for you. I want to take you through sewing the Nola dress with me. Definitely summery, a bit of a baby doll sort of fit with the empire waist, and a little bit sort of like that Milkmaid style that's been so popular these past couple of years, with the ruched bust and the puff sleeves as well. So for fabric, I went out and bought a bedsheet. So here's my fabric that I'll be using. It's really soft. I think it's like just a simple print, but I think it would look great on a dress, so that's why I picked it out. So it's really soft. I think I already said that. It's quite thin, so it does come with a backing sheet as well, so I'll be utilizing that. And because this is a king size, I probably will have a lot of fabric left to make some other cute things. But yeah, that's all the information I have for you right now. I'm gonna go ahead and print my pattern pieces, cut out my fabric, and I'll meet you back. I've flatlined the front yoke bodice piece where we'll gather at the center front. I've flatlined this just because this fabric's quite thin, the duvet fabric, so it did come with a lining, I guess, so I've cut the white fabric with it, so I've just flatlined that all the way around the edges with a hand stitch. So I've done it with this, and I've done it with the two sleeves. And I've also done it with the back shirring piece. For the back side pieces, I haven't, because I think we sew these together, so it will create two layers anyway as a lining for it. So I haven't flatlined these. I have my channels for the sleeve. For the ties, I've cut out just two white strips. And then here are the front and back skirt pieces. This one's the front, and this one's the back. The front goes a little bit higher, as it is sort of like an empire waist situation. But again, I have flatlined these two pieces. Here is my center back piece, which is going to be shirred up. I've already folded my top edge in by 1 centimeter and then again and pinned that in place. So I folded and ironed it once by 1 centimeter and then used this line to indicate the next fold, so it's now lines up with that fold line. And my first row of stitching with the elastic will be to secure this, and then I'm going to transfer all of these markings onto my fabric and then sew like strips with the elastic to shirr it all up. I filled up my bobbin with elastic thread by hand. Set my stitch length to the longest length and my tension to about 6 or 7. I always knot the ends as well by hand, just to keep them secure. As I'm getting more shirring, I'm stretching out the fabric before I sew. on my front yoke bodice piece, I've marked out 2 buttonholes, and these are going to be used to feed the ties through, to like gather it all up at the top. So to do this, I have found a little button which is sort of a similar size, and I'll just use that to help create the right size buttonhole. So if I just open this dude up, and that should make a nice size buttonhole. I actually forgot to change my tension when I was sewing these buttonholes, so mine did come out a bit tight, and I did actually go over them twice. So don't forget to change your tension back to your normal tension. Mine is about 4. Using my seam ripper to open up those buttonholes. So I'm taking the outer piece of the backside piece, which is the right side, and placing it right sides together along the princess seam to the back center piece. I've added these front straps that will extend to the front like that, and then also on the lining, and once they are all sewn at the shoulder seams, I will use the lining to sandwich the shirring together, and we'll sew that all the way up the princess seam. I'm folding those outer pieces right sides together again, flipping it to the wrong side, and then taking my lining pieces and sandwiching the shirred piece between the lining and the outside side back piece. It's a little easier to see rather than to explain, so I hope this helps. So once that is all pinned, I'm going to sew all along these 2 edges. Here's it from the front and from the back. I'm opening it up again, and I'm going to press that seam onto the lining piece, and I'm just going to understitch this. So stitching onto the lining, catching that seam allowance. Now, doing the same thing but with some shirring elastic, I'm marking 5 centimeters away from the shoulder seam. So at the top 5 centimeters and below I'm marking 5 centimeters. Right, so off camera I've just done that, and you can see there's a little bit of texture at the shoulder seam. Alright, now I'm going to attach the front straps to the front yoke bodice piece. Right sides together, I'm just taking the straps and I'm putting it right in the corner. I just quickly had a look at the pattern, and I actually need to sew across this line indicated here by the 2 notches. So I'm just going to mark these on now. Well, the notch here, so I just need to mark the other side that I don't. And just sew along this line. Once this is sewn, I'm taking it to the back side of the front yoke piece, and I'm going to fold and iron once by about 1 centimeter, and then again on that stitch line that indicates the next fold line. So I'm just going to fold it again like that, and then I'm going to do that along all of the top edge of the front yoke piece. And that should embed the strap really nicely to the top edge. Here I have my ties. I have 2, and I've folded them in half lengthways. I'm going to sew down the length and then turn it inside out with my loop turner. I've inserted my loop turner, caught the end, and now pulling the straps right side out. Next, I'm taking a safety pin, attaching it to one end, and I'm going to feed it through one of the buttonholes into one side of the front bodice piece. Until I get to the start of that front strap. I'm going to place a pin right there. I'll just place a couple of stitches right here just to catch the strap into the channel, and then remove the safety pin at the opening at the other side. And now we have one of our straps installed into the neckline. I'm going to do the same on the other side as well. Now my ties are nicely inserted. I'm going to sew 2 basting stitches along the bottom edge of the front yoke piece to gather it up to the front skirt piece. finding the two upper threads, and I am hand gathering that until it fits the top of the front skirt piece. Taking my front skirt piece and front bodice, right sides together, pinning that together. And sewing that down, making sure that all our gathers are lying nice and flat. The front part of the dress is done. Just going to attach the back skirt piece to the back bodice piece. Right sides together. And I'm overlocking all of my seams to finish them off as well. Next is to close up the side seams on both sides, right sides together. For my sleeves, I'm folding it right sides together and sewing along the underarm seam. Here I'm sewing the hem of the sleeves, just folding it over once and stitching very close to the edge of the sleeve. Then I'm snipping away the excess fabric to make a really narrow turn up. And folding it again to make this really narrow hem. Next I'm adding 2 lines of basting stitches between these 2 notches, so just right at the top of the sleeve. I have these strips for the sleeve. We're going to sew them right sides together along that small edge, joining it into a tube. But what we are doing is leaving a tiny gap here, so we're just making a couple stitches at the top, leaving a space, and then a couple stitches at the bottom. It's very fine, it's such a small area to leave a gap in, but here's what it should look like. You've got a little bit of a gap in that seam, and have also turned up one edge by 1 centimeter with my iron. Placing it on the sleeve at the bottom, I am lining up that folded edge that we ironed up to the edge of the sleeve, and I'm going to sew along the top edge of the channel. Once that's sewn down, I am turning the channel up, and then I'm going to stitch along this edge. And that'll make a nice clean channel for our elastics to go through. The pattern calls for a 1.2 centimeter width elastic, but this is the only one I have. So mine is 2 centimeters, so it's going to be a little bit of a squeeze, but I think we can do it. And the length I have here is about 25 centimeters, but you can find your length in the pattern. It gives you that information. So I'm going to take my safety pin and feed it through that channel. I must say, I did push it. It was quite a squeeze to fit this width of elastic in this channel, but it worked. It's in there now. So we're sewing up the 2 ends of the elastic and then sort of stretching it back into the sleeve to make a nice gathered sleeve. Here I am taking my sleeve and my armhole and inserting them right sides together. I always feel like I take so long at this point, like getting the sleeves right. I do enjoy putting in sleeves, but they can just take so long and there's so much matching up to do, especially with puff sleeves, but they look cute, they're worth it. So gathering up that top bit of the sleeve. And I always hand tack my sleeve into place first, just because there's a lot going on and I don't want anything to move, and then go in with the machine and stitch it down. And the last step, as usual, is hemming the skirt. And with all that, we are finished. Let's see how the final dress turned out. thank you so much for watching. I'll see you very soon. Alright, take care.